Just do.
I had a blast. Honestly, Alvin is so nice, such a gentleman to take this flavorless white girl and try to help her be funny. And I had a blast. Alvin was hilarious. He has a great joke about Obama that I hope you will see one day on his website or in person. You can catch him. His schedule's on his site. Check it out.
Yes. At where?
At alvinwilliamscomedy.com.
Very good.
Hell yeah.
Check you out.
Told you I've been there.
I didn't believe you.
You are now listening to Things I Don't Hate, a podcast by Alvin Williams. Join me as each week I explore the often quirky passions that make our lives a little more unique, with interviews from members of all walks of the entertainment industry, as well as a few of my family and friends. Together we'll deep dive into why people love what they love and do what they do, in hopes of making the world a more brighter, understanding, and successful place to be. If you would like to subscribe, join me at thingsidon'thate.com. Hello and welcome to Things I Don't Hate podcast, the podcast in which we love to pontificate about the things that we don't hate, which is code for things that we love. This episode has been in the making for 12 years. The person who I have is so special to me. We will get into it, but I guess I have to introduce her to you all. She is an award-winning film director, writer, comedian, and my all-time longest-running partner in stand-up. I give to you, Heather Turman. Hey, Stack.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
I'm so happy to be here, and it's so good to see your face.
I've been glowing about today. Like, to anybody that asks me about it, they're like, "What are you doing today?" I'm like, "I'm podcasting with Heather Turman." They know who you are. So yeah, this is a big deal. Like, I didn't want to interview you in the beginning of the podcast because I didn't know what I was doing yet. I just wanted to have a rhythm to what I was doing so that we could have a really good one. So
sure, I'm honored. I told you I'd watched and I'd subscribed on YouTube. I'd listened, and I was so happy to see you were doing this. So I was honored when you asked me.
I'm just glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. This is a great way to spend a Thursday.
So where are you right now? Let me know.
Los Angeles, at home in a corner.
At home in a corner chilling. Have you been back on the road, or are you taking a break for stand up right now? What's up?
I did a couple shows once things opened up here in town. Mm-hmm. But my evolution with stand up, as you know, because I've opened up to you a little bit of it, is that you go through a period where you outgrow the stage persona that you've crafted for however many years. Yeah. And it starts to feel a little dirty when you're doing it, It
does. This is a deep one. I guess we're already getting into it. It's so real. I swear there's been 3 different versions of me that I have found through the lens of stand-up. Mm-hmm. And somebody recently did a TikTok. I think I sent it to you. They did a TikTok where they took a clip of me from 6 years ago,
which is one of my favorite jokes of yours. But yeah, and you were like, I don't even remember how it ends.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't remember how this joke ends. It was because it was so who I was a long time ago, and it's like I am so not that person. Like, I'm talking about a relationship fight, and I'm like, I haven't had a relationship in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not who I have been, and that's not what I've talked about. So it was like surreal watching people act out something that I said, because I'm like, I don't feel that way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's it though. Like, and it's so interesting because I feel like you get so, especially, you know, I'm on like the LA circuit here, and there can be so much pressure to sort of hone a particular persona and a stage presence because it's your brand, and Hollywood's like, what's your brand? What's your brand? What's your brand? But, and so have it like, it seems like, you know, you look at a lot of old time comics and a lot of the ones that turn to drinking and drugs and get depressed. I feel like it's because they weren't allowed to evolve or didn't feel safe enough to evolve.
I can tell you that is a fact. Without a shadow of a doubt. Because even with that TikTok bit, it's like, I don't remember how it went, but I do remember what I looked like. I do remember that phase of my career where I always had on like I had a decked out suit or suit vest.
When I first met you, you came in with a hanger and a perfectly pressed suit. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That was how I rolled. And now it's like, you can't catch me without like jeans on. Like I'm like, I remember, I had a picture on Instagram, and you're like, I like had on a you know, the Canadian tuxedo, like the jean jacket, had a handkerchief, had a baseball cap, and you're like, I am loving this look, and I'm like, well, you should. This is your look.
Yeah, well, the shoes especially, because I used to wear big Nike high tops and stuff when I was first starting, and so I was like, yeah, I love this look, and yeah, totally. I love watching you get more casual because, you know, you started to do it with your work in a way when you dropped one of your albums. I remember you just recorded it on the fly and decided to release it. And I loved that. Yeah. You know, like, because that's that speaks to someone who is in a place where they're safe enough to be unsafe and just like, this is it.
Right.
Here it is. This is me.
I needed that. It was like a big purge of I had been doing nothing but clean comedy for the most part, to where like I was doing the ships and I was doing clean stand-up, and I was really good at it, but I lost the edge that I had, you know.
Gotcha.
Like,
yeah,
because it was years upon years of that, so it was like I was perfecting this clean stand-up, but well, I'll tell this story. There's this comedian named Clinton Jackson, and have you seen him perform before?
No, but you've mentioned him before.
Yeah. It was so instrumental to me because I watched him do this clean stand-up show at a comedy club, and he killed it. And I just asked him straight up, because I'm like, you know, I've never seen at that point I had never seen a black comic in a nightclub like that just destroy completely clean, you know.
Yeah.
And I just asked, how do you do that? And he said, well, you can't fake it. In order to do clean comedy, you have to live a clean life.
Interesting. Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
You can't, you know, be out there with drugs and women and alcohol and doing this, that, and the other, and then go up there and, well, I mean, one person
at church
did
on Sunday.
But like, you can't do that and be true to the art or yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if
that's essential. That's essential. And
yeah.
I think, and like, that's really the thing is that like, you know, like personally, I got to this place where I wasn't compelled to write about the stuff I was going through, or more so, I didn't find any of it funny because I was healing a lot of shit, and feeling good sometimes isn't that funny.
And I remember meeting you right let's see, we met in 2009, is that correct?
It was July of 2010. Yeah, my first paid comedy gig ever. I opened for you
in Midland, Texas.
In Midland, Texas. And and you were so kind and generous to take me under your wing. But yeah, it was July of 2010.
And I just remember your stand-up was hilarious, and you weren't feeling it. Like a year or so later, it just you wanted something different, and your material started to change. And all of a sudden it was like, this is you. Like, this is, it was a distinct difference. It wasn't, I'm going to tell people what I think that they want to hear from me. It was like, okay, so this is me.
Yeah. This is what I'm, cause I got to a place, somebody had, I had spoken to an owner of a club and he said to me, I don't know who you are. And that was pretty much those 4 words, or 5 words I had to count. I don't know who you, 6 words. I'm like, who are you? But I'm
like,
saying,
I know you can't count.
Who are you? Yeah, I can't count. But when those, like, that really struck me, and I was like, yeah, I'm hiding behind stuff that I think other people will think is funny, not like coming from a genuine place of like, this is the tragedy of life, isn't it hilarious? Which is what I got it, which is what I enjoy about comedy. So once I decided to tap into that truth, it became different. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know that feeling, and I know, like, watching you go through it, like I felt like I was there every step of the way. So it's
especially those early years, you really were. I mean, and you took me, to, like, I'll never forget the show here in California in what's the town called? It starts with an M. It's where Lacey Peterson was killed, or you know what I mean?
Man, I can't remember. It's with is it Montrose? Is it
No, but it is an M, and it's totally where Lacey Peterson was killed. Lived with Scott Peterson. But yeah, and Modesto. Yes. And
we had our girlfriends.
A church group. Yeah. And I didn't know going in it was a church group. And, my act is not for everyone. I'm very open about my sexuality, my troubles with my family, and, and taking what people the uncomfortable parts of homosexuality that people didn't want to confront, just airing it out, in a tongue-in-cheek way, like just being like, if this is how men talk about women, listen to me, you know what I mean? Like, just as a funny. But and it was just, dead silence. Like, I mean, you witnessed a lot of those shows. But, I mean, I had it rough.
What I remember about that is our girlfriends got along so well at the time. At that time,
yes. We were both dating very similar women.
We definitely were. We were dating very structured, like we think you're ridiculous women. Like that's how they were with us. And it was like they connected because they both thought we were being ridiculous all the time.
Yeah.
And you and I were just like, we were our own thing. It was an adjustment for them to realize how much, like, we knew each other.
Yeah. Because there's an intimacy when you're on the road like that together, like there is, especially as early on in our careers, because, just like the stuff that we're doing to survive and all of it.
Right. So it was, I remember we were leaving out of the place, and like you and my girlfriend at the same time were like, don't forget your keys. You always forget your keys. And then you all just looked at each other like, all right, you take it. I don't.
Yeah. When I saw that though, I remembered thinking like, oh, okay. Like, she's good for Alvin, you know what I mean? Like, at that time for sure. Because, I mean, you are the most forgetful person I've met in that way, just because, and I think it's because, and I identify in a particular sense where, I'm always thinking ahead, and like, you're like, all right, you ready to go? And it's just like, do you have your keys? And you're like, nope. And then we start to walk out. Do you have your wallet? Nope. And then like, do you have anything other than your person?
I got these jokes. Like the
that means you're very, you know what? That at the end of the day, all you need is yourself wherever you go. That's good.
That's it. That's what it was the whole time. I remember because you lived in LA this entire time. So whenever I went to LA, like I got to see you again, and it's just been awesome, like meeting your friend groups. Like what's the girl? She was just on Comedy Central, and she does a show in her backyard.
Oh, Amy Silverberg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have such an eclectic group of friends, like, and they're all hilarious. Amy Silverberg was one of them. she sticks out to me because it's like she was a professor at
USC, yeah.
at USC, and she's doing this show in her backyard thing. It's like you are so connected to everyone in the scene some kind of way.
It's so funny that you say that because I always feel like I'm not. Like I always
know.
sort of feel on the fringe.
Yeah. And it's like, no, this is every time we hang out, like and of course there's Leanne who you introduced me to, who you're like, I think you all would get along. And I'm just like, well, it's gonna be weird without you there introducing us, but like cause I booked her for a show.
Well, I told you to listen to her album, and you did.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was.
Because you wouldn't have if, like, I said, you should really listen to her album and I knew you would think she was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that album. I had that album on repeat for at least 3 trips because I was back and forth and traveling, and I never got tired of it. Like I listened to it in the airport.
The fucking crease in my neck joke is just I love it so much. Like I love it so much.
I like the joke about Douglas. If you're
Douglas, yeah.
If you're an adult and you choose to go by Douglas instead of Doug, you're just being a dick at that point.
Yeah, you're kind of a dick. Like, yeah. And what do you say? I don't even know what the word is.
Salubrious.
Oh yeah, salubrious.
I was eating a sandwich and it was salubrious.
So funny. Yeah, she's a gift.
Yes, she is. And you knew that we would click. It was like I heard the album, but I had never booked somebody for the show I hadn't worked with before. And you introduced us, and it's like she's so cool, you know.
I'm
and
so glad.
You get this type, like you I say all this to say this. I introduced you to one person, and it's not a fair trade-off.
That's not true. That's not true.
You've given
now what I'll say is I know the person you're speaking of, and we've got a great I love that experience because it's never ending. It just keeps going. But you've introduced me to a lot of great people.
I have.
You know, Grant Lyons is somebody that you mentioned. You didn't I don't think directly connect us, but you mentioned I should get in touch with him. And I saw him out at a show and I said, Alvin, something like that. And we connected. And
good.
Yeah. No, and there's a couple others. And, Jen Adams and the whole Boise crew.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And everybody in Boise.
Tessa and Rashad. And yeah. Okay. But
yeah.
I forget that technically I introduced you to them because it's like, we're all like family, you know?
I know.
Like,
yeah.
I don't even think of it. It's just like, we're just kind of the same circle.
Well, Tessa and Rashad in particular, we had one of the best experiences ever. And I feel terrible for other comics that are never going to get to have the experience of performing at Carmen's Comedy Club.
Carmen's Comedy Club was the best.
It was the best. I mean,
I love her.
For the listeners, it was, a woman who at her time was probably in her 60s, decided to open a comedy club in Washington. And she had a 3-bedroom house. And so the feature stayed in the small room and the headliner stayed in the big room.
Yeah.
And she had like 9 cats, but you'd never know it. And it was just how great. And then at her club, it was beer and wine only, but then she made Jell-O shots, and that's where she got you. So it's like this sweet lady in a sweater being like, oh, Jell-O shot. And then all of a sudden everybody would be wasted.
I remember that part specifically because you all did get wasted and then heckled me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so young. I was like 23 years old when I met you,
This is what now, was this 2012? I think 2011. This was like 2011.
I want to say it was I think it was the end of 2010. I think I'd been featuring for you for it was December. We went in the winter. And I think it was the very end of 2010 that we went together. And and that was when you asked me if I was gay. Yeah. But we'd been we worked together for 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't ask. I knew.
Yeah.
I wanted you to tell me
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, no. But you asked me in that way that was like, are you gay? Do you have something to tell Alvin?
I just wanted you to be comfortable around me. I'm like, you can do whatever you want with other people, but like you and me, like we're like this. So, you know, you can always just be yourself around me. You know?
For sure. I was just so nervous because I didn't want now to be like frank here, like you never did anything weird as like a male and like a young, like male headliner. And I was taking a feature female on the road. Like you never did anything weird. You were never predatory. You were never disrespectful. You and your ex had barely begun dating when we just met. Wow. So then you guys, started to slowly get more serious. And so then that made me feel like, okay, cool. He's not like, trying to hook up, but like, you never made me feel like you were. Right. But there was still this thing in the back of my mind that was nervous of like, well, what if Alvin knows? And then like, he just doesn't want to work with me anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like there was that.
Really?
Yeah. But I, that was me projecting onto you. You did nothing to make me think that.
Yeah. No, I never would have been like that. I didn't know you felt that way.
I mean, I was scared. You know what I mean? I had just been rejected by my family. Like I couldn't you know what I mean? Fair.
I was just gonna say that when we were on the road, when you all heckled me, it was a joke about chitlins, cleaning them in bleach. Yes. Does anybody have any food that requires a disinfectant to marinate it in? Right, something like that. Uh-huh. And Tessa shouted out, "Maraschino cherries!" That's hilarious. And you were like, "Hey, yeah." Like, you got so indignant, like I've lied to you for years. Like, hey, yeah. Like that's what I remember. And I have to stop the show. I'm like, okay, you know what? Both of you, like.
I'm so sorry for that.
Well, do you remember directly after that woman got on stage and kissed me?
No.
You don't remember the lady that like she came on stage like I'm talking 1 minute and then like nobody was looking at me anymore. And somebody went, "Oh no!" And she was like next to me, and I look, and she's like, "You got to be nice. You got to be nice." And she kissed. You don't remember this?
No, I don't remember. I was probably drunk. I was so terrified to be performing comedy. I felt so like I went on the road very early, and so I felt like, oh my god, like I have to like everything. I've like when I opened for you in Midland, like on the car there with Vanessa, I'm like, okay, time me because this is every funny thing I've ever written. You know what I mean? Like,
Vanessa.
Yeah.
Jeez, I forgot about her.
Yeah.
You still keep in touch?
No, we had a bit of a falling out.
That's fair.
A bit of a falling out. Yeah.
That's
But I wish her very well. A big part of my life. So yeah. Yeah.
I liked her.
Yeah, she's great. She's hilarious.
Yeah, but I like everybody in your life.
Your wife is like, but you like everybody in general. Like
that's not true. You take that back. I will edit that out. That lie that you said. I do not like everybody.
Okay, there's truth in that. There is truth in that. But for the most part, everyone, if it's like a friendly scenario, you tend to really like enjoy everybody. You're like, I love everybody. Like you really do.
But in my defense, like you don't bring trash people around me either. Like I cannot stress that enough. I've met trash people, Heather. Like it's a big deal that every time we hang out, like who's the girl who was the writer for a magazine?
Writer for a magazine.
We all had sushi together.
Oh, I really don't know.
It's just so many connections. I don't know. What does she do? Press?
Probably Crystal. Was it Crystal?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. She doesn't do the Press Pass LA anymore, so that's why I forgot.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think maybe she does still actually help, but she's like just busy with other stuff, so it's not her main thing anymore.
I cannot stress enough. Like the people that you've met are like such a gift that when I was in LA, I never felt the toxicity that I hear about. I never felt that. Like I find that, and this goes for any place in the country. If you find a good circle of people, like you won't feel that.
Absolutely.
It's just a lot of times we end up, especially in the entertainment business, you get burned by one or two people in a row, everybody sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I
True.
mean? Like depend. It's like I've known this person forever, and it's like they've always like been doing stuff behind my back or whatever. And it's like I come to expect that. And then the next person that you meet does the same thing. It's like, oh, well, this is just how it is here. So I'm going to be this way.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
I never got that. You know, it's like I always had you. You know, Dante is awesome. You know?
I mean, he's such a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So like so like the people who you introduced me to, like it always made it for a better environment as far as I was concerned.
Well, good. Thank you. And I'm happy to hear that.
And that's why I just wanted to bring up like your wife is incredible.
She
Heather
is.
Matarazzo,
Mm-hmm.
who I finally got to meet 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, I'm in love, so I get it.
Totally. Well, and the thing is you had loved my ex-wife. And so I was, and she's such a great human being too. And so I was nervous for you to meet Heather, because you and I did our last road gig together in New Mexico, just as I was exiting that marriage and entering this new relationship. And so it was very important to me that you got to see that, like, I wasn't making some terrible mistake, and that like I had, that it was just important to me that you saw everything that I saw in Heather. And then when you met her, you're like, she's everything that you said she was. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you recall during that New Mexico trip, I was in the middle of making a terrible mistake. So
you had feelings, you were in a relationship, and it was with someone who wasn't as available as they told you they were. And that's pretty much.
Yeah. That's, wow. You summed it up way shorter than I ever did. Like that is, that's what it was when I look back.
Yeah.
and like her and I are like cool now, but she's a different person now.
I saw photos and I didn't recognize her. Yes.
Yeah. We're just, it's amazing how like these moments in your life that take up so much space in your mind, that stuff really doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
You know, but it exists in your mind. It takes up the space in your mind. And if you are able to separate yourself from it, it's like who I was and who that person was at that time, they suck around each other, you know? And and you might hold on to that, and you view that person that way. And it's like, you don't allow people to change.
Exactly. And I actually think that that's an interesting thing, because that speaks to, because you said like she's cool, you guys are cool, and she's a totally different person. Mm-hmm. Your ability to stay friends, and I think anyone's ability to, at least, after the heartbreak is gone or the hurt's gone, like, give the person a chance to get to know them, because sometimes like, I mean, that enables you to heal from the situation, because then you're not holding on to bitterness and resentment, because you see that like, okay, like they are a person who was going through something and they weren't ready for that. I was a person who wanted something that they couldn't give, and it didn't work, and
it's honestly that simple. And a lot of times we don't have the coping mechanisms at our ready to not lash out and do awful things, to try to break away from that relationship. Like you end up hurting people worse just because you don't know how to tell them, hey, this isn't working out.
Exactly. Oh, it's so
especially
crazy.
When you're young.
Yeah, it's so crazy. My ex-wife, like I was so frozen. I was in a space of, we had gotten married, but I remember feeling like very disassociated from my life. I was like, it felt like I wasn't in my life. And so when I woke up and realized like, this isn't my life, it was that thing of like, I wish I had the clarity and the strength and the awareness to know prior to agreeing to marry her that we were not, like when somebody's main argument all the time is like, we never have anything to talk about. Like we go out to eat and it's just like, well, how was your day? Like, it was fine. Well, tell me about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just didn't have like once that there was a deep respect there. I respected her as a human being, and I still do. And I have a deep love, but just, we're not good partners. We weren't good partners.
Yeah.
And, and so it's that thing of like, the hurt was so much greater, but had I just had the, and I was young, and I feel like, don't get married before 30, people. That's, but
what are your feelings on 40?
I am so happy I married Heather, but I also feel that like if I didn't, I would totally be one of those people that like, if like, I would never want to exit this. I mean, she's my favorite human being, and I think we get to grow and evolve together in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
But like, let's say something terrible happened to her. Like, I wouldn't be rushing into it. I feel like I've gotten to heal enough stuff that makes me not, desperately seek another person, and actually enjoy, my own time and my own solitude.
For sure.
But yeah.
Well, I think this is where my ability, because you're not the first person to say that. Like, I'm amazed that you're able to keep in touch with your past relationships and stuff like that. Yeah, twofold. Number one, I came from a family who we're equipped to forgive pretty well, and also just see the good in people versus the bad, not hold on to the bad. That's just like the household that I grew up in. There was a lot of forgiveness in the family, Secondly, this is what I mean about when the two of us were talking in the beginning about allowing people to change, and you as a stand-up, when the world doesn't allow you to change.
Yeah.
I feel like our career, when you are allowed to change, gives you a new perspective, because you more than anybody understands that who I was 5 years ago is not relevant to who I am right now.
Yeah.
And if you can allot yourself that, we have a lot of time for personal reflection in this industry.
Yeah.
A lot of time. We're on the road a lot. We're driving a lot. We're by ourselves a lot. And you have a lot of time to do some self-examination. If you allow yourself that ability to realize I'm not who I was 5 years ago, how dare you not do that for other people?
Exactly. Absolutely. Especially, but that's the thing. I think most people who don't do it for other people don't allow themselves to.
Right.
Because we treat other people actually better than we treat ourselves, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I had, it's like you asked me about Vanessa. My heart breaks about that. But we've evolved into different people, and I have nothing but love and respect for her journey. She's doing really cool things, and I'm very happy for her.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm getting like a little teary.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
But now I'm like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. But you don't even have to edit this. This is fine.
I'm not editing this. You crazy?
Yeah. But
I'm not taking this out. This is my award-winning moment.
I like personally, for me, it was like with stand-up, because I had gotten to this place of like, I was a final callback for Just for Laughs in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I had just, at the actual audition for the first one, I had just, Felicia and I, like, a divorce was official, and I was in a relationship with Heather. But the material, we were sort of advised like to do similar material, or, if not the same set that we had submitted our tape, that our tape showed. And so I did all this old material about Felicia with Heather in the audience, and it felt strange, but I was like, this is JFL, and I committed, and I got the call back. Then, 6 weeks later at the callback, it was like, I absolutely cannot do this again. I absolutely cannot lie again. And so I did a lot of newer material that, is actually some of my stronger stuff now, but at the time was newer. And I was just so insecure about a lot of the stuff that I was sharing on stage. I wasn't like fully through the experience myself. And so, I didn't move on. And so there was a lot of like, almost like resentment at myself for like evolving, I know, but like, it's a grief,
Yeah.
And when you said that if you can allow yourself, if you can, like, it's a death, like you have to let the person die so the new one can live, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Because
it.
it'll eat you from the inside. I think you remember, man, I sound like a broken record about this. Like when I first got successful with the cruise ships, when I first started to gain some traction, and it's like, okay, I'm making money now, you know, like I finally did it. And I had a career. I was doing cruise ships. I was doing colleges. I was doing comedy clubs. I'm young. I'm in shape, you know?
Yeah.
And this was the goal all through this 5-year relationship that I had struggled with, not feeling successful enough during that time, getting in arguments, you know, when somebody doesn't believe, they don't necessarily believe that you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
You know? And then it's like, you make it to this point and it's like, see, I told you.
Yeah.
But that person's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, this whole life that I built, like this motivation that I had was to prove that I was good enough.
But it was actually to prove it to yourself.
It was to prove it. It was to prove it to myself. Well, see, I'll tell you,
being in a relationship with someone who doesn't fully believe you, and this is where it goes, choosing to be in that relationship with someone who doesn't fully believe in you means there's a part of you that didn't fully believe in yourself. And so the whole time you were fully trying to prove it to yourself. And then when you finally exited that relationship, that is actually you proving to yourself that you were worth the belief. And then you became successful. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're better. This is why we need to perform together more. You're
I
better
know.
voicing my thoughts than I am. I've always taken too long to get to, but that is.
Well, because I've just been, I mean, I wouldn't be like, I learned how to communicate all this stuff these last 5 years of my relationship with Heather. You know, we did some alternative therapies and it changed my life. I told you we did MDMA assisted psychotherapy, which
what is that like?
It's amazing. What it does is we sit with a very, you know, like the most purest soul in the world. He's 83 years old and is just but he is the purest soul, and we sit in a very safe environment in nature, and we tell him what we're trying to work through, and then we take the medicine, and it lasts for 4 hours, and he guides us through it. So what it does is it turns off the amygdala, which is the fear portion of the brain. All of your deep-seated fears, like your amygdala is the thing that keeps you alive, right? So your deepest childhood traumas, like if you're like divorced parents, like a parent leaving, like, you know, if you've got abandonment issues, like the actions that you take are motivated by that, and you don't even realize it's motivated by not wanting to repeat that trauma, have that trauma repeated. And because you're acting from a place of fear, you inevitably create an environment for yourself where you have that same abandonment all the time.
Yeah, it's worse.
It's worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it turns that off, and it turns on the part of your brain that helps you make connections. So you're able to look at all this stuff crystal clear. And I worked through stand-up with him. I got to a place like I didn't expect to, but I said to him, stand-up comedy feels dirty. Every time I get on stage, I feel like I'm just living a lie because I no longer identify with the material. It's no longer my journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he gave me a great analogy where he said that imagine that you are you're watching the cutest child for the day, like the cutest 5-6-year-old child, cutest little girl, and you come to an intersection and she wants to cross the busy street, and you're like, no, there's no way you're crossing that street by yourself. There's no way. And she's going to get mad at you because she's like, but I want to cross the street, you know? And it feels, if you can get to a place where you can recognize that you can be okay with that little girl being mad at you because you know it's the better decision. So like the little girl in me that like sought outside validation and needed people to laugh in a way that so much more than honoring my true self right? If I'm like lying and saying material that I don't feel, then that's like the little girl in me who's desperate for that validation. And she's like, no, I want it. I want to cross the street. And so getting to that place of being the parent and being like, it's okay that you're mad at me because I'm actually taking care of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't expect to get so emotional. I never get this emotional, but I guess I need to. I guess I've got stuff that needs to come out.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we've been locked away a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. I can't say where, but there was some stuff that I had to like fill out recently, and it asked it was like psychiatric evaluation questions, and it was like, are you prone to anxiety and depression? And I'm like, okay, this isn't fair. Like, shouldn't it say like, hey, before COVID?
Yeah.
Hey, before quarantine.
Yeah.
Answer these questions. Like, you can't ask me that now.
Yeah.
I've been like locked away for a year and a half.
Yeah. We all have a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah. I'm like, you've taken my path away from me for over a year when I was like ready to make, my move.
Yeah.
I had the special out, like I had 9 months of work, and it's like, it's gone. So yeah, I am prone to those things now. It would be weird if I wasn't.
Yes.
Like,
Did you write that? It would be weird if I wasn't. Okay.
Hell no. I want that money.
Oh, it was for work stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was asking that stuff because it's like, like they didn't want me to like we don't want you performing, in an enclosed space for too long.
Yeah.
If these things aren't, and it's like, I get it. I understand. However, like, be real. Like, don't put me in a position to it. It's like, if I answer this honestly, you're not going to let me perform, and that's going to make shit worse.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
If somebody told you, hey, we know you had a special, we know you had 9 months of work, but you're not going to be able to promote that special outside of the comfort of your home. And those 9 months of work that you had in contract, those are gone. How do you feel if I'm like, I'm fine? Hide the knives.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
For me.
You're a sociopath.
For you.
Yes.
I'm going to kill you. Like, that's I'm a serial killer at that point. So yeah, I'm like, we gotta adjust how we're treating people. We're all gonna feel bouts of vulnerability. We're all gonna have emotions that we're not used to.
Yeah.
There's people I've been talking to recently where I'm like, hey, forgive my behavior. Things are really starting to hit me hard, like super recent. And I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm being real.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, don't ever like that, like those emotions that you feel, you're like, this feels weird. It's like, yeah, because you're not by yourself.
Yeah.
you're talking with, like, I feel like I'm one of the most connected people with you.
Yeah. Well, I think there's that too, is that, like, normally I talk about this stuff like in my home with Heather, and she's aware of all of it. But like, like, you are a peer in comedy. And so I don't generally talk about two peers in comedy about the emotional stuff going on as a result of the experience of stand-up, of comedy and what that looks like. So, well,
speaking of emotions coming out at weird times, I think I told you that your film Stuck, it was in 2017 when you released it, correct?
2019 we released it.
You released it in 2019. You made it in 2017, right?
I mean, this is actually, we filmed it in 2016. It was finally finished it was on the festival circuit in 2018. So we started, like, people could see it in 2018 at festivals. And then 2019, it was released everywhere. Yeah.
Now, when did you send me the link for it? I swear it was 2018.
It could have been. Because everyone who contributed got a viewing link. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I had the viewing link for, I think, a year. I had not seen it. And then I saw it. I was on a ship. I saw the movie and I cried because it was so good. And I remember how much of your life went into that, how much your life shifted, how, you took your savings and you sold your car, to make this movie happen. And I felt like I was one of your best friends. And for me to have been so busy to where I couldn't take an hour and a half and watch at that point, your life's work.
Yeah.
I felt sick. Like I felt awful because it was, how I'll tell you what it is. It was all this and it's self-centered. Like what if it was bad? After after everything that you went through,
but
that
see,
movie wasn't good.
But well, here's the thing, I have conflicting feelings about it. Everything you just said means so much, and I don't begrudge anyone who hasn't seen it yet, because when you are in a creative field, it's like everyone is like, this is released, like all this stuff.
I know, but Stacks, like seriously, like it was my fear of, if this movie isn't good, because like your whole life different.
Yeah.
How your life was when you started that movie versus how it was when you finished it, and the sacrifices that you made. And I'm like, if this is not good, what do I tell her? It's like, I am invested in this thing.
Yeah.
And I was scared. And then I watched and I'm like, not only is this good, she can act.
Thank
like
you.
you were not, it wasn't you. Like it wasn't Heather Turman. Like you were the wife in this what's the guy's name?
Amir Talai's the actor, but of the character's name was Mohammed.
Yeah. And it was just, I loved your character in it. And I'm like, I had never seen this part of you. I had never seen other than what's that show? The celebrities. What's
Conversations with Future Stars.
Conversations with Future Stars.
Which was definitely like an embellished version of me, an exaggerated version.
Yeah, and it's funny and quirky and stuff. But this is like real acting,
Thank you.
And like, I'm the biggest fan of, like, I don't miss anything that you put out now. The Algorithm, Helen's Famous Pasta Salad, like those short film. People watch Helen's Famous. It's Helen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's Helen's Famous Pasta Salad. That is one of my favorite shorts of all time.
Oh, thank you, Alvin.
It's so funny and it's so real. Like just watch it. It's on YouTube.
Thank you.
Search it, watch it. And the Algorithm. Oh my God.
Leanne is just.
It's so. Leanne is so amazing in it. And it's so real. Like you tap into this real, like this uncomfortableness that people get in these moments. And it's like, I thought it was just me, and it's so good. Like you really, you had to peel away the layers to find this gift that you have. And damn, you went through a lot to find it. But it's a for real thing. Like your movie making skills are phenomenal.
Thank you, Alvin. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, it would have, if the film were embarrassing, or like if I was like just this awkward, like, because like when I watch Conversations with Future Stars now, my acting was horrendous back then. I watch it and I'm like, it's so flat, but at the time that was what I knew how to do. I was very detached, and that's how I thought everybody was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you for all of that. It means everything. I have definitely gotten to, I got burned with Stuck in a way because have I told you about the eyelash story?
No.
So, like the day that we were beginning production, like I worked so hard to get this movie off the ground. The first day of principal photography, it's like 5 a.m. I'm showering, before I get ready to go to set. I get out, I look in the mirror, and I have like a fallen eyelash on my face. And that like you make a wish on a fallen eyelash. So I was like, I just want this movie to change my life. Like in 6 months, I want my life to be totally different. And I blew the eyelash. And my life was different. I was without a car. I was divorced. I had to go back into bartending. And so
I forgot you bartended.
Yeah. And so because we went way over budget. And so, it was quite the experience. And I learned the value of being specific when you make wishes. Being very fucking specific. But I'm so grateful to be on the other side of it. It really, I think I felt the trauma of it and the downside. And I told some jokes about it on stage. I was like, hey, I'm in this movie, I'm like, and it stars this person. And I'm happy to say it's already led to another job. This is like my bit. And everyone's like, ooh, but also it's LA. So they're kind of looking at me snide eye, like, ooh. Yeah. And then I'm like, you are looking at a bartender at Umami Burger. And then they'd all laugh like me again. But yeah, it was a hell of a journey. I'm so grateful to be on the other side of it. And I definitely wouldn't take it back. I don't remember what I was going to say prior to that, because before the eyelash thing, I was going to say something else. But yeah, everything you said, I greatly appreciate. And I got burned because the attachment. You get such an attachment to an outcome, and I had no, you know what I mean. And we made a lot of mistakes in terms of just a lot of it. The three people who produced it together, me and my two others, we just were never on the same page. And so a lot of resentment under the surface and all this different stuff. And, and so I had my heart broken in other ways, because I had much different expectations for what it would do and where it would end up and all this stuff. And now I'm at this place, like you mentioned, my short films, and I just want to make them for me. And I'm so grateful that anybody thinks that it touches them. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that I think of you at every potluck, any party, when somebody makes their famous dish, and I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it right now. I don't care.
Totally. Because it happened. It was based on I went to a Labor Day party, and I witnessed just out of the corner of my eye this whole thing happen, because when I walked in the door, and in my mind, this possible just kept getting, it was huge inside, just this huge possible. And the person who made it's like, I made, my famous pasta salad, it's inside. And then as the party's going on, I hear how she's keeping it inside because the flies, but everyone was so happy to have the burgers. And it's like that kind of thing when I'm eating and talking, I hear her walking by, and the sound of her, so I kept hearing it. And then by the end, I walk outside and everybody's leaving, and I see the bowl out there. And so we left, and I said to Heather, I'm like, I just witnessed a whole story arc around her pasta salad, by the way. And so I decided I was going to make it into a film.
I love it so much, but I love the bow tie.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. Shout out to Angie Stalker. She makes she makes stuff through a little thing called Highly Crafty. It's usually weed oriented, but I was like, make me will you make this? And she's like, hell yeah. So
yeah, she made the bow tie. And it's when I see that bow tie, it's that is representative of somebody who's I'm ready for my close up.
Yes,
they are going to love this pasta salad. Yeah. I did.
I mean, initially I'd had it planned where we were going to go from the pasta to her adjusting her little thing, but the shot just didn't look good. So it's not quite in there.
It never hit me that was an extension of the pasta. She was the pasta. To not accept the salad was to not accept her.
Exactly. I mean, that's the moral of the thing is that, in our effort to be received by other people, we end up preventing them from really getting to see us and receive. We don't give them the opportunity because we're so focused on, you know what I mean? All this other stuff. I mean, that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah. God. I love it. I love it so much. You and I, we will make good on our plan to do something together.
Yes, we will. We will.
And when things get back to normal or whatever,
Sorry for my dog.
I don't even know if I want normal.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is the new normal, I mean, that there's never any going back to normal.
Yeah. I think people have been so nostalgic, and I'm like, don't you realize normal is what got us here in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah.
The norm is the reason that we didn't learn our lesson. The norm is the reason that there was so much unrest, in the underbelly that we weren't handling. And now this goes back to the little girl crossing the street. that you were talking about. It's like, yeah, I know this sucks to see how much everybody's pissed off.
Yeah.
But you need to address it, and this is better for us.
Yeah.
know?
Have you ever heard, there's a great acronym for the word fate that I love, that's from all thought everywhere. And I feel that on a deep, deep cellular level, you know, we were really all craving some quiet. Like, of course, we didn't want it in this way in particular, but how could we be, you know, this is a lesson in specifics, but,
Yeah.
you know, none of us were wanting a virus. None of us wanted death. None of us wanted a pandemic. But I think on some level, there was a relief in the ability to sit still for a minute, because we're just going.
I didn't want to hear from the president every day. And I damn sure didn't want to hear from him on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Especially him.
Yeah. It was like, I needed some silence like that. That's so true. You know? Yeah. So I was just saying that, how normal was, who I was when this thing started. I don't want to get back to that version of me, you know,
that person's dead, Alvin. They're gone. Yeah.
And you know, this new one, like, there's a new one after the new one.
Yeah.
Like this is, and I'm like, okay, this dude needs to chill, you know, because I was killing it, in my opinion, like the growth and everything. Like I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing for like a year.
Yeah.
And then it was over a year. And I swear to you, I mean, I don't think it was a breakdown, but it was damn close. It was just like, I need this to end. Like, can we do something?
Yes.
You know, and I told my mom how I was feeling, which I thought that would be like confidential, but I should have known better. You know? And you know, people do what they do out of love, but you know, I was just telling her, I'm like, you know, it was the same thing I was telling you. I had my special. I was supposed to be touring. You know, but it's like, now I'm just in the house. Like, I'm 36 years old. And she's just like, you know, all in due time, baby. You know, she's saying what moms say. And I'm like, Mom, like, you are 70.
Yeah.
I am 36 years old. I am a man, and I'm trying to build a life so that I can have other people in said life. And I'm trying to figure out who I am and all, you know, all these things. And I'm like, you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
Like, this is not something that I need to be patient about. It's like, I can't be more patient than a year and a half of nothing.
I know. It's
you know?
Yeah.
And so she quietly listened to me, right?
Okay.
But all of a sudden, like, my sister-in-law contacted me out of the blue and was like, hey, bro, love you. I was just thinking about you today. Then my auntie called me a day later, like, hey, I just want you to know I love you. And I was thinking about you. And I was just like, who got to you?
Totally. Yeah.
Told you. It's like, this I don't tell you all
like
nothing.
The first one's suspicious, but once the second one hits up, it's like, okay. Yeah.
I called my sis out. I was just like, sis, come on. You're just thinking of me today? Come on. Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Totally.
But I mean, if you recall, I don't know if you recall, but before the pandemic, like, I was in the worst shape of my life. I had my hip was misplaced. My back was all jacked up. I had sciatica issues. I wasn't getting circulation in my feet properly. Like, my heels were like all like cracked and shit. Like, I was jacked up. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm not going to make it through these next 9 months.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to have to quit. I'm going to have to quit stand up. There's no way I can keep up with this schedule. And how quickly I forgot.
Yeah.
How quickly I forgot. It was, it's like, why am I freaking out over what I lost when that would have been a wrap for my career had things not changed? So I don't want normal. I want new.
Yeah. New. And exactly.
I can handle new as long as I'm doing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
exactly.
I say all that to say this, like, what's the next step for Heather Turman?
Oh man. I mean, so I just launched a podcast as well, Indie Women. It's a podcast for women in indie film.
Oh, okay.
I know, I can't have you on it.
I'm teasing. I swear to you. I swear.
One day I'll cast you in a film and I'll have you on and I'll say, he's the star of a woman indie film.
Me, a female entrepreneur. Cast this man.
But yeah, because I spent this year largely I finally got over my bullshit with writing in terms of like I always did it with a partner. I could never really, I was too afraid to do it myself. So I could always do like pilots, whatever. But I really hunkered down this year, did a lot of writing on my own, and I did a lot of studying up on filmmaking. And it's so easy now with the technology that I'm like, I know for sure for my life, like I want to make my own films. So for me right now, and I started listening to these podcasts that are all great. They motivated me amazingly. One of them in particular, Indie Film Hustle. I was just a guest on it. It hasn't been out yet, but he's done a really amazing job of having people come on who share how to actually make money with your indie film, and which is really impossible these days. And people think it's easy, but it's not. And especially because distribution is changing so much and all this stuff. So I've listened to like all of it. And there's another podcast, Just Shoot Me, I listen to, and I love them. But a majority of the guests on both of these shows are men. And I get it. We're talking about the business side, and men tend to, lean more toward the business side. But I know that there are women who are making their own indie films, and many of them are becoming very successful with it. So I started this podcast, and it's been a lifesaver. I just started it a month ago, so only 2 episodes are out. But I'm having a lot of fun with that. And I'm loving getting to meet these women because I've got some film ideas, and I hope, to do a feature in 2022. I definitely have a short I plan to do this summer, another one. So yeah, that's what's next for me right now.
Hey, that's what's up.
Yeah, we'll see. And stand-up is in my mind, but if I it's that thing where I can't go out there and do the 3 jokes I've written that are true to me now. Like, you know what I mean? It's got to be, I need to sit down and write something that's like, write a full hour, rent a theater, shoot it, and call it a day and tour around.
Yes. Yeah, it's time. Yeah. And I love that you're giving women a platform, like truly, because it's interesting that you were saying, like men are more business side oriented. I don't necessarily believe that. I think a lot of
that's what I'm saying. I think the hosts are men, and so they are like, oh man, that guy did, they see themselves and they have the guys, but you're right. I did sort of say that maybe men are. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'll be completely honest. Behind all of my best business decisions when I was younger, was Joe.
Yeah.
Was my girlfriend. Like she had a master's degree in business, and she really like taught me the business side.
Yeah.
Even before that, there was this girl that I was dating when I was in Boise. And at that time, like that was during the recession. And I was like really down on myself, and I'm just like, I don't have a real job. Like I'm just a comic. And she said, you need to reframe your mind. You do have a real job. Comedy is your real job, and you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you need to treat yourself like a business.
Yes.
And that shift, then I meet Johanna after that. And I say all that to say this. I have a business partner now, right? Who, I do the Moscow comedy shows with, and Comedy Night at the Inn in Coeur d'Alene and those things. And we got a comedy festival coming up. I promise you, we were negotiating with each other, like during the beginning stages of that whole thing. And as it progressed, and I swear to you, I'm like, I'm not, every decision that was made, it was like, I would kind of ask like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And so I'm talking with my business partner, and one day I just asked him, I said, hey, This was years later. I'm like, can we be honest? Were we negotiating, or were women negotiating behind closed doors? And how often does that happen?
Sure.
How often does a casting director make the decision himself, or does he go home and he's with his wife and he's like, well, what do you think of this person? What do you think of that person? How often does that happen?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that speaks to that famous phrase, behind every great man is an even greater woman, or whatever they say, is that, is the thing of, for the longest time, women weren't the ones with the jobs and the ones making negotiations.
Right.
But we learned, we learned how to, get what we wanted by whispering to the men in charge,
Yeah.
And that just became a part of how society began to function.
It is. And it's so true though. It's like, like that. That's what I mean about you giving a platform where you all can just flat out just talk to each other, and there isn't that dynamic of I'm a man, so I'm gonna talk about man things, and hopefully you can keep up. It's none of that crap. Like it's just I find there'll probably be more effective communication if it's women talking to women.
Yeah, it's definitely been, at least because we're coming from a place of, there is a lot of gender disparity in the entertainment industry. And so we're going to have that shared starting point.
Yeah.
There's like a common underlying, just a common start place. But yeah. And I think, by the way, as you were saying all that, I need to make sure I tell you, you've always done the business really well. And it's great that you have, you've mentioned and credited Joe many times before to me in the past privately. But you executed really well, and you should be very proud of yourself. There are so many comics who almost every comic that sort of becomes the big fish in their small pond city moves to New York or LA and falls apart. Right. And you never made it seem like you had to be there. And when you tried it out here briefly and you were like, it doesn't work and it doesn't make sense because I'm paying for this place. And it just so happened that I started getting cruise ships and I started getting, at the time you had gotten your college agent and all this stuff. So it just didn't make sense for you. You were gone. But so many comics can't do that. Start in a place and turn it into the career you have. You are one of the outliers, truly. And you really it's amazing. And I've watched your journey from I don't know if people know this on the podcast, but you worked at an airport,
I did.
hauling luggage to put it on the planes which is brilliant, so that you could fly to these small hodunk towns who are paying a headliner $200-300 a headline.
Yeah.
So you could fly for free.
Yeah.
And because that's the problem is most people can't afford to drive that far or fly, because it costs more money to get there. But what you did was such a sacrifice and it was brilliant. And I am continually impressed by where you go, it's just I remember early on you had said something like a little quote on your website, something about me. And you were like, the sky's the limit for her. I'm like, the sky's the limit for you. You are really I'm so honored to get to have had my humble beginnings with you. And you blow me away. So. Oh
my God. Thank you.
Yeah, it's true.
I thoroughly appreciate that coming from you. When it comes to my career, I always tell people, I don't make mistakes on my decisions because it's my decision. At the end of the day, it's my decision and
your truth. You don't betray yourself. Yep.
Right. So I feel like anybody in any career that you have, if ever there's a time where, you're concerned about making the right choice, I've always told people, whatever choice you make is the right choice as long as you made the choice. If the choice was made for you, you're always going to feel disgruntled. You're always going to feel unsettled. There's always going to be a what if. But you have to take solace in the fact that given all the information that you had, this was the choice that you made. You weren't ever trying to screw yourself.
Yeah.
If things didn't work out, and there's no guarantee it would have worked out better the other way. It just would have been different.
Yes.
But always take note of, hey, I made this decision. Now, was every decision right for my personal life? Hell no. Not close. I'm saying 50-50 best. And I best. I win some, I lose some. But I've always been right. I've never cheated myself when it came to making the right choice for my career moving forward. So the fact that I mess up in life a lot.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do. But those career choices, being staunch in my career choices, always gave me leeway to screw up in my real life, because it's like I can always, like, I've got enough of a experiential wealth in comedy to where I can always pick up and start again. I can go anywhere. I'm convinced I can go anywhere in the country, have the same career.
Yeah, 100%.
Start over. For any comics listening out there, you can make an entire career based off of bookers and agents and venues that none of your peers even know about.
Yeah, it's true. 100%. 100%.
Be super. Yeah. So there's nothing to fear. I'm rambling. But Jim Carrey who was like, you can fail at doing something you hate.
Yes, that is my favorite. Heather and I watched that little clip where he talked about his dad all the time.
Yeah, and that is
failed at
so
something
real.
he hated. Mm-hmm.
That's so real. And I've been blessed along the way. Tons of people have helped me, tons, but I've always done right by those who've helped me along the way.
You're such a good friend. You maintain relationships so well, and it doesn't come from a place of like, what can I get from this person? And that's very important too in this industry. It comes from a place of you genuinely take an interest in other people, and you genuinely make friends with people, and you keep up those friendships. And that's what makes a person successful, honestly, like in any field.
It's so
Make
real,
friends.
and you do the same. There's never been a time where you've given me a contact or a lead on shows, or introduced me to somebody where you're like, this is for me. Like, it was always, Alvin, this could help you. Mm-hmm. Jen Adams was my mentor when I started, and she never did anything self-servingly when it came to looking out for others, and I picked up that from her. So it's like there's a huge female influence in my career, to which I have that mentality when I deal with others.
Yeah. I mean, you don't look at women as lesser, and that's a huge thing too. You approach, now you definitely can tell the biological and chemical differences between, the hormonal differences between men and women. We just have different hormones, and that's a fact. Yeah. But you approach everyone with a blank slate, and then you base it on the person. And Jen was the first one who told you, like, you could really do this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I instill in others what they instill in me. And I mean, how like lucky am I that this goes back to meeting the right people in the beginning. Let's say I met somebody horrible in Midland, Texas for that gig, like how different would it have been? Because that was one of the first times that I was getting to headline with that agency that I had. Yeah. Right. So it's like, this is my first time, like getting to do this. And how different would it be if I just had some awful human that was with me? It was like, I might hate the role, you never know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And same, like that was a very kismet, all the stars aligned for that day, that show. They had just remodeled that hotel. And they had a line out the door of this new club, all these people dressed up, ready to go out, ready to drink and have a good time. And I was so excited that I made sure that I encouraged them to drink and have a good time. And so
you moonwalked in cowboy boots?
In cowboy. I did all kinds of stuff. And it, like, but it truly, I definitely didn't dig you a hole, which would have, made the thing shitty. And so it was one of those things where, because after those gigs, we were driving to Michigan. Every other gig I showcased at a couple clubs on the way, and everything else sucked. And so it was that thing of like, if I hadn't had that, who knows if I would have done comedy for a decade after that. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. That's what I'm talking about is, those positive moments, those little positive moments that you have years ago that you hold on to with your very soul when you're somewhere in like Scobie, Montana, in like 50 miles away from the nearest McDonald's. You're performing in a barn and you're just like, you
close your eyes and you return to Midland, Texas.
And you're like, Heather would be awesome here. We would still find a way to have fun here.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that to lean on, you're just like, comedy sucks.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Well, I have taken an hour and 20 minutes of you away from life.
You have gifted me with this hour plus chat. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I needed to see you. I'm so glad that we got to do this. This is just, I would like to consider this the, let's call this the end of Act 2 for us.
I like that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Alvin, it might actually only be the end of Act 1. You know what I mean? It's or like the midpoint.
You plan on living a long ass time.
I don't know. I was going to ask you before we go, you mentioned something about going anywhere and starting again. So I'm going to get real with you real quick. And then I know you got to let me go. Are you ever going to settle down someplace? And like, are you ever really going to?
Oh yeah.
But do you know where? Do you ever consider where? Like, where do you think?
Sure. Either Miami, New York, or possibly Chicago.
Okay.
Possibly. There would have to be so many reasons for me to go home for good. But I think Miami or New York City, those cities speak to me. My soul feels right when I'm there every time. Like,
yes,
it's who I am now.
Yeah.
Those are the two places that I'm looking at.
I love it.
Yeah, but settling like for good or
never.
like,
you never will, because your soul, you're just like you've been a jet setter. I mean, I think it is who you are, and I admire it. And I'm itching to leave Los Angeles. Like it's COVID really, it started to brew where it was like, why am I here? So I was curious because I wondered, we talk about evolution and where you'll end up. And also, I'm also just curious about when am I going to be living in a vicinity near Alvin again? And my parents have a place in Florida. My sister lives in upstate New York, and Michigan, my home base, may end up where I end up one day. So
see,
close.
we're gonna find our way to each other like that. That's one of the things I am least concerned about, because I'm like, I know career arc wise, we will have to reconnect and we will be working on multiple things together. So whether that happens like in the now or in the future, like we're going to have a lot of projects together.
Yes, we will.
But I have changed in the sense of all the traveling and being around the world and all that stuff. I want to have a place to put my stuff.
Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Your favorite Carlin bit that puts you to sleep.
Yeah. No, I was too dense to understand. I was too immature, and I couldn't receive the depth of that man at that time. He's obviously the greatest. And while it doesn't make me laugh out loud, it moves me deeply. It moves me deeply.
So funny. I like you. That was Modesto. That was, I was talking because remember, like Joe hated that I would listen to stand up at night, right? Mm-hmm. I would go to bed. I'd have stand up on, and I would go to sleep listening to George Carlin. And you were like, yeah, it doesn't do it for me either. I fall asleep too. And I'm like, that is not what I meant. And yeah. And we were laughing.
And we were laughing, but it just like I feel I'm sort of I have some shame around that because I just wasn't hip to the greats at that time, honestly. And now, I mean, everything he says about capitalism and being owned, I mean, he spoke the truth the whole time, but you know, I had so many blinders on. I grew up such a privileged child. I just was like, what is he talking about? You know what I mean? But
yeah,
of course,
we were young. It was just, I had been listening to him since I was a kid, you know? So it was just always in my psyche. Like I listened to Carlin, like that's my ghost. Like that's who I'm chasing. Like that's why I do the writing and put out a bunch of albums. It's like I want to try to catch him or just, you know, at least if you follow along that path, you know, like
you aspire to that. You aspire to to what he put into the world, and that's a great person to aspire to. Obviously, you know, undeniably probably the best. So
what about you? Are you gonna have the big house in like Michigan and you know?
You know, I mean, I like I said, everything's up in the air. We're in Los Angeles. I mean, you know, we're here right now. But for the first time in my life, I'm no longer afraid of not being here. And that's all there is.
That's everything.
Like, and that's
that
everything.
Is freaking everything.
Yeah.
Because when you're not scared to leave or you're itching to leave, everything's going to pop off for you.
Yeah, it's true. 100%. It's true. You have to be willing to lose it to get it. I mean, that's how it always goes.
Everything.
With everything.
Everything. That's what I've been willing to lose you for the last 12 years. That's all. Lies, complete lies. Heather, thank you so much for being on the Things I Don't Hate podcast. You are easily, truthfully, the thing that I don't hate the most.
Oh, I love you so much, Alvin. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was such a pleasure.
This was everything. We'll do it again soon.
Indeed.
Don't forget, if you would like to subscribe, go to thingsidon'thate.com. And if you just have a quick question or comment, please feel free to email me at don'thatealvin@gmail.com.